Ground triage job remains an intensive challenge, but the question is, in an ever-changing game, how far can you push it? A hostile rebellion capital fleet is sieging a large neutral tower nearby, with some sniping support. Alesseus makes final launch checks on his drugs, strontium, fuel and boosters. With only 20 battleships in fleet, we have to go with close-range setups to break the hostile captors by the tank and to be able to use neutralizers. This means we cannot drop the triage carrier out of range of the enemy dreads. The enemy have 11 capitals on field, with 8 dreadnoughts and 3 carriers against our 1 carrier. Even with good orbiting against each dreadnought, our battleship will have to be repped against Moros drones and carrier fighters, and enemy sniping battleships that begin to come in at range, and of course the large cross guns, which are shooting all parties. The enemy dreadnoughts begin to prime the triage carrier, which will have to run its local tank flat out while keeping the support up. Heavy damage is coming in, and the broadcast window begins to flood with armor and capacitor requests. Alesseus Archon is tanking 20,000 DPS, but the hostiles caps put out 30,000. It's a race against time. By muting the dreads, we can knock out the capacitor heavy guns on the Revelations and Moros.
8% left on the Moros. Secondary to me will be pitch code to leave 2 nukes on Amentia. Units only 1 or 2 nukes. Everything else on pitch code and all the next.
The carrier has held out long enough, and in the meantime, most of the hostile capitals have been killed. A triage carrier in the right situation can be devastating, but it takes more than one card to regularly play well against the marauding capital fleets of New Eden. Rather than try to hide triage carriers as repping nodes amongst other carriers, we applied remote rep battleship principles to In this battle, we engaged a Pantheon group of 10 carriers against the final total of 26 carriers and dreadnoughts. Sons of Tangram begin by engaging a tower with a triage carrier and battleships. The control tower is completely incapacitated and can play no role at all in the fight. We send in a smaller number of battleships and jump in 2 Pantheon carriers to get things started. The enemy's triage carrier begins well by repping our damage, but against our low alpha, the start cycle boost of shield rep isn't needed, and mixed tanking of support makes it breakable under capacitator pressure. As the first battleship goes down, a timer drops and 3 hostile dreadnoughts jump in. This is the cue for our remaining 8 carriers to jump. But the escalation is what the enemy has been counting on. The dominoes fall and the hostile cap fleet comes in. Leaving us nearly 2 to 1 outnumbered by a mixed carrier and dread group, which matches our carrier escalation on dreads alone. The hostile fleet first chooses to prime Link Leo, a regular triage pilot, probably because if he were in triage mode, he could not be repped. For the same reasons, we switch to the enemy triage carrier, and also so that the enemy cannot rep its support as effectively. We have to rely on good neutralizing, or else he could tank our fleet. The enemy expect to have enough punch to break through the Archon directly, even in triage, but Link is not in triage and is held up by the strong Pantheon Spider. Probably assuming the rep to be coming from another triage carrier, they switch fire to LSAs, whilst their own one dies. Although the tank is holding, with more hostile capitals coming in, it's important to reduce enemy DPS, and LSAs ping for Gunny to warp in a smart bombing battleship from an off-grid spot. Now deciding that no triage is involved in our spider tank, the hostiles focus on the shield tankers. However, the chimeras are armor tanked and slaved against Alpha. Unable to break the chimeras, the hostile begin warping out to regroup. Unfortunately, due to lack of tacklers, several neutralized dreads make it out. The enemy capitals continue to go down. Ship scanners allow us to see their capacity level and to ensure that the secondary target is capped out as it becomes prime. To their credit, enemy cap pilots who die come back in new ships alongside more reinforcements. Our smart bombing hits continue. But eventually the enemy has begun to provide good smart bombing cover for its dreads, who are now out of siege and have enough weight of carriers on the field to rep against sentry drone damage. This signals the time for return to the shield. It's a dangerous part of the operation, because once several legs of the spider cross the shield edge, the rep amount would drop vastly. To make it possible, a previously phantom triage carrier finally does appear and sacrifice itself to provide a burst of extreme rep as the last carriers make it for the shield. Aside from a single battleship, the herding triage carrier becomes our only casualty of the fight.
Never been so much fun. 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 Go up to your brother, kill him with your gun, leave him lying in his uniform, dying in the sun. Never been so much fun. 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 Go up to your brother, kill him with your gun, leave him lying in his uniform, dying in the sun. Kill him with your gun, 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 kill him with your gun. So much fun. Never been so much fun. Never been so much fun. Never been so much fun. Never been